say yes. I need you to do more and say less. I won't just say yes. Need you to do more and say less. I thought you knew that anybody can do that.
Jon Stewart on the Daily Show. I like that he's back on Mondays. I find him refreshing. I thought he was good when he was on Apple. He and Apple had creative differences that led him to this, but not as many people are watching him on that platform as they are on a Daily Show. And once a week is good. You know, it gives him time to really bring it home, which is what he has been doing. I think they should have kept Roy Wood to do the other 4 days. That's just my opinion. I think that would have been a nice 1-2 punch, but they had no vision because mediocre white men make decisions in the country at the top of the food chain. That's what happens. They don't have any vision. They can't possibly see the depth of what that would do. Let's go to that clip, Smiz.
I only want to be a dictator for one day.
Just so you know, that is how it starts.
Yeah.
I'm not saying anybody has to do the arms salute. Let's just start with a few people doing the arms salute, and we'll see if the arms salute catches on. Ignoring the Bill of Rights, tearing up the Constitution, pining for a brief stint as a dictator, well, that settles it. When the good, patriotic, Constitution-loving, real Americans hear Trump's disrespect and disdain for our sacred constitutional principles, they will be outraged.
I'd rather have Donald Trump as a dictator for 4 years. Absolutely. This country needs a dictator. I hate to say that, but it's the truth.
He could stand on the front steps of the White House and commit murder, and I'm with him.
If he says it, then I'll go with it. And if he wants to be a dictator, then so be it.
Yeah. Put on those Nazi brown shirts.
Yeah.
866-801-8255. Isn't it kind of stunning to hear people say that we need a dictator, and they're voting? They're
terrifying, and they're voting. This is how things. This is why I exist in this country, is because things slid, disinformation happened, foreign influence happens, and all of a sudden people rise up. Your very vulnerable country flips. And all of a sudden, you've got mass exodus. I mean, this is a problem. We're in a multipolar world too now, where the United States is not the most powerful country in the world like we used to be. Okay, it's like we have competition on the same economic level. Yes, our military is bigger than the next 8 countries combined and all that jazz, and that will retain our strength for a good amount of time for the foreseeable future. But what happens on the inside of this country is extremely vulnerable, and that's what the rest of the world is seeing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's playing out. And I know Jon Stewart was referring to the red coats. I'm referring to the brown shirts because that's what really is underneath those Trump 2024 Blacks for Trump t-shirts. 866-801-8255. And it's so wild, people participating in their own demise. So wild watching it play out. I'm gonna play one more clip, Smith. 866-801-8255. Actually, I'll play a couple more clips. There's this couple because this is not just white men, y'all. This is not just white men. You know, I talk about the 53 percenters or the 54 percenters, the 53 to 54% of white women that voted against their reproductive rights and other rights. And as I was saying yesterday, one day Saudi Arabian women could go to work, they could drive cars, and then the next day they couldn't. It just happens like that, right? And for those of us who have never had our liberties questioned and our voting rights questioned, I just remind you, as I did yesterday, my grandmother couldn't vote when she was born in this country. My mother couldn't own property for a good deal of time without the signature of her dad or my dad, right? Couldn't have a credit card, right? So, you know, it wasn't that long ago, and it happens quickly. You come from a nation, Persian, Iranian nation, where women and people had rights, and then they didn't. Then they didn't. I mean, you could see some of these old pictures of Afghanistan and Iran and Iraq and, you know, Saudi Arabia from the 40s and 50s. And it was this cosmopolitan, you know, looked like a very dope society. And then just like that, here comes the burqas and the hijabs and the lack of rights. Right. And I'm nothing against burqas and hijabs. You wear what you wear, but
It's the compulsory. It's
It's
when
the
someone
law.
makes it's when it's the law. Yeah.
866-801-8255. But the infection from the inside that you talk about is even inside of us, right? So
Yeah.
that women in this country, white women, I call them 53 or 54%. It's not just white women because they're influenced by their daddies and their husbands and the men in their lives, right? So there's this couple that was interviewed recently, and I'm just going to play the clip. And you can hear the references and the context, get it from the clip. Play the clip, Smith.
Political differences, it's not a deal breaker. No, it's not a deal breaker.
Oh, no, absolutely not.
So in 2008 and 2012, you voted for
Barack Obama.
2016,
I voted for Donald Trump.
Hillary Clinton. 2020,
Donald Trump.
Biden. And who will you vote for in 2024?
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump.
So
You may vote for the former president. I may. Why do you say that? My views on certain things have changed. I am very much so riding the fence.
As a black couple, by the way. He voted for Barack Obama, then he voted for Trump, and he voted for Trump. She voted for Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, and Joe Biden. And then when they asked who you voting for in 2024, he said Trump. She said Trump. Possibly, maybe Trump. Did he wear her down, or did something happen that Trump was so good for black people? I'm so confused by what are we living in different worlds? Is there an alternative? Is there some other different world that we're living in that y'all are living in that would make you say, man, those 4 years of Trump with the hydroxychloroquine and all of the bleach and all of the weird things and looking up into the eclipse and all, I mean, is there something that we missed with all of the, like I mentioned, education and treasury and
I think it's more indicative of why I would be more interested in why he's a Trump voter, less than why she changed. Because I think in a good relationship, you allow yourself or you're open to be influenced by your partner. And I think that's a good thing. And the problem with that is that sometimes the influence can be bad, but in a relationship, you want that vulnerability with another person that you can be swayed. You can look and see something from a perspective you didn't before. So I'm more interested in where his perspective comes from, that eventually, because obviously he wasn't coming down hard on her or screaming, because they look like they're in a very positive relationship. I watched that video. They look like they were, very much in love and stuff like that, and very chill with each other as far as their divergent politics. And now she's come around, if you will, to his point of view. So 1, beautiful relationship. 2, terrible politics.
What if we're wrong? Oh, I'm gonna throw that out there just in case.
That Trump is great.
What if you and I are wrong about what we're seeing?
Oh, you mean about the rapture?
Well, I know you're wrong about the rapture. I definitely. Cena Gasnaby is here. Cena now.
You always give my handle out when I say something about religion.
I do. I want people to at you and then have a conversation with you. I was thinking, because I'm so clear. I'm so clear about where we are.
Yeah.
But there are people like the folk, we need a dictator, that feel like they're very clear too. Like they think they got the answer. Do you know what I'm saying? And I don't think they ever asked, what if we're wrong? But I'm going to ask the question, what would that look like? If we're wrong about Biden, if we're wrong about Trump, 866-801-8255, how do we even approach that conversation? What if you're wrong?
I guess the argument there, if I were to try to make that argument, which would be very difficult to do, is that a country needs to go through a time period of complete and utter failure to come out the other side stronger. And maybe a dictatorship would destroy us down to our very core so that we could rebuild again and understand what kind of a mistake it was. Because since World War II, what really has this country, 9/11, but that was very concentrated. And then we fought a war all the way on the other side of the planet and stuff like that.
The only problem with that, because I think a lot of people in 2016 felt, hey, I'll vote for Biden. It's not Biden. I'll vote for Bernie, or I'll vote for Jill Stein, or I won't vote. because well, how bad can it get, right?
Exactly.
And then when Trump came in, people died, but we like we didn't care. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it wasn't bad enough.
It wasn't bad enough because and I don't want to say this, but we had a pandemic that made people sit down. So the planet had time to heal for a couple of months. Like some good things came out of that, in addition to millions of people dying globally and 1 million plus here in the United States of America. Some of y'all lost some beautiful people during the pandemic because the president did not take the last president's pandemic plan and then execute it. He threw it out. He didn't read it. So we didn't have enough for the hospital workers. We won't know the impact of what Trump did in 2016, 17, 2020 for probably a decade because we've lost nurses and doctors, right? It with institutional knowledge, people are like, I'm not ever coming back. That was trauma. We lost people. We lost some systems as a result of this man. We probably don't even know how bad it is, right? And that's the other problem about every 4 years. The impact of the 4 years that we had with Trump won't be felt probably for another 4, 5, 6 years. And by then, there'll be somebody else in office, the way Obama took over for Bush, taking that, that dumpster fire that he was handed. And then by the time we're getting out of it, here comes the next horrible president to take us back, and then we'll blame the Democrats again. And I just feel like it's going to be really interesting. I wanted to say what you said just now, Cena, like let it all just crash and burn. But I also know we are used to sustaining pain. Like we'll work through it and then gaslight ourselves into blaming somebody else for it and not recognize that maybe we need to change. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm not optimistic that people are going to change.
And again, I am a living, breathing example of what happens when you burn it all down. My existence in this country is what happens when a country overthrows their government, thinks something good is going to happen, and then now they're basically been taken hostage for 40, 45 plus years. That's what's happening.
I was going to say, in Iran's, one would say, we're not better than when your parents left it, You know what I'm saying? It's you can't go back. Do you know what I mean? It's not like something great came out of it where now there's this, everyone's free and the country's, thriving, and there's a lot of oppression there still. And that's been 40, 50 years.
Way worse. There was oppression before the revolution. That's why they had one. It was bad before. And this is when you realize that what you define as bad could actually be 10 times worse. And that's what I think so many Americans don't realize is that what you just said, we had Trump won, and then it wasn't bad enough to wake people up until we had the pandemic and they could think about it. Like, how bad do things need to get for you to understand that you need to wake up and you need to participate? And this is not the path.
Well, it's like, Roe v. Wade got overturned. Well, I'm not for abortion anyway. So I'm glad that happened. So, okay, let's put that over there. Affirmative action. Well, I'm not for black people. I'm not not for affirmative action. I want to win on my merit. Okay, all right. So that's not enough to send you to the polls, right? And that's all Trump, right? That's all his picks on the Supreme Court. Yeah. What else is coming? Your voting rights? Well, I don't vote anyway. Okay, let's take that away.
What do you care? I always start with, what do you care about? Yeah. And I find, what do you care about most? My big question to people is like, what are the 1 or 2 issues that matter most to you in your life? Forget voting, forget everything else. What are the 1 or 2? And then it's very clear to just lay out what each side, and there's not even 2 sides anymore. There's kind of 4 sides now. You've got moderates in the middle from both parties, and then you've got the wings. And so you can lay out the entire spectrum of stuff to them. And this is what your world could look like. Which path do you want? Either way, you got to pick a path because there's really only at max 4, really.
What about education? Trump destroyed that, and the pandemic did too. We lost maybe 2, maybe 3, maybe 4 years of young people, particularly in these underserved areas that were already underserved. Thank you, Betsy DeVos. They were already underserved. At least this administration wants to bring broadband into places because that was a big loss for a lot of people who lived in underserved areas. They just didn't have connection to the internet. right?
Yeah.
So under the infrastructure bill, now internet's going to be in these rural areas and some of these underserved areas. And then the next guy, if it's Trump again, we don't need this broadband. Y'all, come on. To your point, what do you care about? Those of you who are thinking about not voting in November, what do you care about? Not what don't you care about? I can't vote for a genocidal. Okay. But what do you want to see happen? What do you care about? Please let us know.
I won't just say yes. I need you to do more and say less. I won't just say yes. I need you to do more and say less.